If Fallout 4 wasn't already scary enough, you can add a number of key mods to make Fallout 4 feel significantly more scary. And in this card, I am going to go through 8 mods to make Fallout 4 feel much more scary and add a horror element to your game. Hi, I'm Mo and I'm trapped in Fallout. The first mod we're going to look at is called Damn Apocalypse by Payload. This is an interesting mod. Now, let's think about this from an apocalyptic point of view. When you're playing a game where you're in a world where a lot of things have happened, bad things, and you're walking around and you happen to find a lot of loot everywhere, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. When you're in a world, i.e. you've just woken up from a vault and you're wandering around, you should typically expect loot to not be very commonly available, and when you do happen to come across some loot, you shouldn't really expect it to be, let's just say, vast in numbers or quantity. Well, this mod Damn Apocalypse takes care of that. After installing this mod, you will suddenly find yourself with not having an abundance of loot everywhere. Typically you would find, say, things like ammo or aid kits basically anywhere and everywhere. Now however, after installing this mod, you will find that loot isn't as commonly available as it was, and you will find yourself making a lot of tactical decisions that you otherwise wouldn't. For example, you will find yourself using weapons you otherwise wouldn't, or using armor or other kits again you otherwise wouldn't. Not because you're forced to, but simply because there aren't many other kits available. You will also find things like meds much more commonly available in places that are, say, medicine or medically based like hospitals, or you will find things like ammo in more military settings. Basically, with this mod, you will find yourself making a lot more tactical decisions. Gone are the days where you will simply run into somewhere and fire off into the distance. Now you will, however, probably decide more often than not to run away, adding this horror element to your game. Next, we are going to take a look at a climate mod called Polluted Climate by Mandragora Sprouts. This is a rather interesting mod as it definitely adds to the suspense of making Fallout 4 feel like a more horror game. It sort of dulls out the bright colors of Fallout 4 and gives it a very atmospheric look. When walking around the world and indoors as well, actually, you will find that the brightness of Fallout 4 is gone and is replaced with the somewhat, let's just say, Silent Hill-like look. Things are very foggy. You will find yourself surrounded in very dusty and radiation-based cloud environments, and you will more commonly find yourself surrounded in radiation storms. The Polluted Climate mod is even more enhanced by combining this with another mod called Darker Nights by Unformidable. This basically makes the darker nights more darker. In other words, when you're walking around at nighttime, you will find yourself that nighttime has been made much more dark. This adds a much more suspense in the game, in the sense that visibility is basically reduced at nighttime, and given that this combined with Polluted Climate, i.e. encountering radiation storms or dusty nights and so on, this basically makes your travel in Fallout 4 much more suspenseful, much more scarier. Arguably, something that makes the game much more scary is actually the audio element, and the next two mods will be audio based. The first one we're going to look at is Reverb and Ambience Overhaul by MM137, and this is what the mod does. Now, if you didn't hear that, when you hear any ambient based audios, for example firing bullets, or any audio in the distance, for example ghouls making their grisly sounds, or any other creatures, or even a firefight happening in the distance, you will hear a lot of reverb. Now, if you don't know what that is, probably the best way I can explain it is that you hear sort of like an echo. It sort of feels like when you drop something in a room and you hear sort of like this after effect. So if I fire my gun again, you can hear this echoey effect, and it adds a little bit of tension into the room. So if I now go into here and start firing off my gun and hearing other things firing at me as well, you should hear a lot of echo happening in the background. Now, this might not feel like a really big deal, but the reality is it sort of is. Say when you're just wandering around out in the open and you hear gunfights happening in the background, or any sort of, say, instance or situation that generates audio, you will hear this echoey sound. Now just imagine yourself walking around the wasteland. It's dark, you've got darker nights, you've got polluted climate, and you've got the reverb. All of that happening all at the same time while still having the Damn Apocalypse mod active, and you sort of hear all of this stuff stuff happening all in the background. This will at times probably even give you a bit of a fright. Now, with that, let's talk about the second audio mod, which you've probably experienced it, but you probably may not realize it. It is Sinister Ambient Sound by Zorak912. This, unlike the reverb mod, just basically adds a number of random background audio all around you, whether you're indoors or outdoors. So as you're just walking around, you will hear all sorts of sounds in the background, and it will force you to take a bit of a turn, make a 180 degrees, just to see if there's actually something chasing you, if there's just something happening in the background. You'll hear all sorts of things. You'll hear ghouls, you'll hear screams from other NPCs, you'll hear shooting, you will hear a lot of things. Werewolves-like sound, or let's just say dog-like sounds, all sorts of things. Let me see if I can demonstrate this a little bit better. Now, I don't know if you heard that, but that seemed to feel like something snarling right behind me. Obviously, when I turned around, there was nothing there. And given the sort of sounds we've heard, as you're just basically wandering out in the openness and you hear all of these sounds making you wonder if there's actually something behind you, or are you just sort of passing by something that's happening in the background, it will basically keep you on your toes. And if you made it this far into the video, then please do consider leaving a like and leaving a comment in this video, as I do like to reply to as many comments as I can. In particular, let me know about any horror mods that you've used that I haven't mentioned in this list, and I'll definitely try to get back to you. For our last 3 mods, we're going to look at mods that are all around evolving or changing ghouls in Fallout 4, starting with the first called Feral Nights by SKK Mods. In this mod, you will notice after installing that the number of ghouls will be seriously amped up in your game. So when traveling at night especially, you will find your times randomly just seeing a number of ghouls just basically spawning in your world. And you could get anywhere from, say, just a handful to something like this, where you get a great number of them all spawning, all going for you all at the same time. Again, with the whole horror element, or enhancing the horror element of Fallout 4, this certainly can make the game significantly more scary. Now, following on from Feral Nights by SKK Mods, another one that definitely helps is the Detailed Feral Ghouls mod by Erpork. I hope I pronounced that one right. In this one, all the ghouls in your game will get a bit of a retexture, and they'll basically look significantly more scary. You will get ghouls that, as opposed to the vanilla textures, will have what seems to be like glowing-ish eyes. You'll see a lot more variety in your ghouls, and they will in general just be a little bit more scary. Now, followed on by the last mod in this collection of 3 is the Terrifier Ghouls by Taylor Longboard. In this one, the actual guttural sounds that the ghouls make will be slightly different. So if we just observe for the moment, this is effectively the new sound effects you will hear when encountering ghouls. Combining these 3 mods, or grouping these 3 mods, will actually make ghouls in your game, I think, a little bit more scary, and will definitely enhance when you're traveling at night. Now, given all the mods that I've gone through, so just a bit of a summary for some of them: Polluted Climate, Darker Nights, Reverb, Sinister Ambient Sounds, and now these 3 mods around ghouls. Just with these collections of what I would like to call key mods will certainly make your time in Fallout 4 significantly more scarier. In this guide, I went through 8 mods that will make your time in the Commonwealth much more scarier. That said, if horror is not your thing, and instead you're more interested in making things more challenging, in particular making survival mode in Fallout 4 more difficult, then make sure to check out this mod list you see on the screen right now. Click on the video you see on the screen right now to find a list of mods that will make survival mode in Fallout 4 much more difficult.